Hi everyone! In this video we will solve a quadratic equation application problem. The product of two positive consecutive integers is 552. Find the integers. When we see the word consecutive, this means that they are the numbers one right after the other, but we weren't told the first one, so we're going to have to use a variable to come up or to represent the first one. I'm going to choose n. And then a variable for the second one, because it is directly after it, the second one will be n plus 1. We were told that the product of these two positive consecutive integers is 552. So if we multiply n times n plus 1, we will get the product of 552. Then we can multiply with the distributive property, giving us n squared plus n equals 552. To solve a quadratic equation like this, we like to take advantage of the zero product property. So if we subtract 552 from both sides, we'll be left with 0 on the right side, and that means that we can use the zero product property. So we have n squared plus n minus 552 equals 0. This falls into the form of a equals 1. Because there's not a number in front of the n, the a equals 1, and this means that I only need to factor c to find all of the factors, which is 552. Starting with 1, we have 1 in 552. It's even, so it'll be divisible by 2, which is 276. 3 also goes into 552, 184 times. 4 will go into 552, 138 times. 5 will not go into it evenly, but 6 will. 92 times. 7 will not go into it, but 8 will. 8 times 69. 9 will not go in, and neither will 10, nor will 11, but 12 will. 12 times 46, and then the next one is actually 23. And 24. Now that we have all of our factors, and we know that we're done because we have the number right next to it, so if I were to go to the next number, I would just be moving down the other side of our factors here. So we go look at our signs. This is negative, which tells us that the factors' signs will be different. One will be positive and one will be negative. Then we look at the sign of the middle term. It's a positive, which tells us that the larger of the two factors will be positive because there will be more positives than negatives. So we can set all of our larger term or factors to be positive and all of the smaller factors to be negative. And then we will add them together to find the combination to give us a positive 1 for our middle term. So adding these together gives me positive 551. Adding these is 274. Adding these gives me a positive 181. Adding these gives me a positive 134. Adding these is a positive 86. Adding these is a positive 61. Adding these gives me a positive 34. And adding these ones gives me a positive 1. And that is what we wanted because the middle term is positive n or plus n, so the coefficient is a 1. This means that I can replace my middle term with negative 23 and positive 24. So we'll rewrite this as n squared minus 23n plus 24n minus 552 equals 0. Now we can factor by grouping the first two and the last two. The common factor, the greatest common factor for the first two is n, so we're left with n minus 23. And the greatest common factor for our second two is positive 24, leaving us with n minus 23 equals 0. Now we have two terms here and here, large terms, and the greatest common factor here is the binomial n minus 23. So if we factor that out of the first term and the second term, we're left with n plus 24. So our next binomial is n plus 24, and this all still equals 0. Now using the zero product property, we can split this into n minus 23 equals 0 and n plus 24 equals 0. Then we solve for n by adding 23 to both sides here and subtracting 24 from both sides on this one. So we end up with n equals 23 and n equals negative 24. So we have two answers that will make this quadratic equation equal 0. However, we were told in this application problem that we are looking for the product of two positive consecutive integers. Since n equals negative 24 is not positive, this will not be one of our answers. So n equals positive 23. And since n is our first integer, this is 23. And then our second one, n plus 1, is 23 plus 1 is 24, which tells us our two positive consecutive integers are 23 and 24. And we're all done. We can also double check this by making sure that the product of these two numbers equals 552, which they do. So we're all done.